Hi, everyone. Welcome back to What Now, a podcast for the lost and found. I am your host, Amanda, and it's so wonderful to be back. I haven't been on the mic in a while, and now I'm really excited to finally sit my ass down and get creative again. How have you guys been doing? It's been a minute since I've checked in with anybody. I've been traveling a lot, and I have not had time since visiting with my friend Stevie to sit back down and start a show. I have been trying to coordinate some scheduling with other friends that are in town in Nashville that have said that they would like to come on the show. But unfortunately, schedules have just not lined up yet. So you get me this week. You're welcome. But anyway, so glad to have you back here. I'm excited to be back here. Let's just go over kind of the weekly recap and then we can turn to the theme of today's show. So without further ado, let's get into it. Grab your drink, get comfortable, take a seat, tell your dog to calm down. Mine's obviously judging me behind me. No, you guys can't see it if you're not watching the video, but me and Dirks are right here hanging out in Nashville. So let's see. 2 weeks ago, when I recorded episode 3, I was visiting my friend Stevie, longtime friend from high school. She lives down there now with her husband. We visited her. We went to see the Heather McMahon show in Tampa. Shout out to my girl Heather. It was a phenomenal show. I had seen it when she came to Nashville in May of 2023, so earlier this year, but I love her so much and I needed, not that I really needed an excuse to go see Stevie, but as soon as I saw her that she had opened her Florida dates, I had to go. So I booked us tickets and we went and we had a lovely time and it was really good to see my friend again. And I'm so grateful that she came onto the show and was willing to be vulnerable with me and with the listeners and talked a bit about her life and career path thus far and where she's been and the ups and downs of those things and where she wants to take it from here. And I think we got a lot of positive feedback about that show. And I'm really grateful that, she still wants to be friends with me. So thank you very much, Stevie. I love you. And tell Ryan, I appreciate him. He is very gracious with letting me take up a lot of your time. So I do appreciate that. And it's always lovely to see you both. So I am, again, very, very grateful for everybody's feedback and support and encouragement. I know this is a learning curve for me, but I am honestly really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying getting to talk to you guys every week. I do plan on trying to upload some of the videos to YouTube maybe one day. Honestly, I'm not a full-time content creator, and this is about the amount of time that I can expend on this. I'm hitting my limit a little bit already. So I can only imagine how hard true content creators are working every single day, every single week and maybe they have a team. So like me being a one-woman show, I'm kind of like, no, this is not feasible in my timeline, but I will try and maybe get some of the episodes up onto YouTube. So if people wanted to watch, that way they could, versus just listening. But let's see, the week after visiting in Tampa, my family and I, so my parents and my brother and I went to visit my brother's girlfriend's family. So my brother's girlfriend is originally from Deltaville, Virginia. Super sweet, lovely young woman named Lee. And we went to the Oyster Festival with her family. And apparently in this town called Urbana is a two-day event for a local arts and food trucks, musicians, etc., all surrounding the oyster industry and fishing industry in that area of Virginia. So it was super cool to hang out and eat a bunch of food, hop to wine tents and beer tents and food tents. I did not do very much with the art aspect, but they have oyster kings and queens, and Lee had been crowned oyster queen a while back when she was younger and still living there. So it was a fun full circle moment for her. And then on the second day, right before family dinner, my brother proposed to Lee. They had been together for 3 years. a little over 3 years at that point, and we are all very, very excited about that for them, and could not be happier to have her joining our family. And I'm sure, I would hope she would say the same thing about Jackson. So I shout out to Jackson and Lee, and I wish them absolutely nothing but the best. It's a long time coming, but it's really a great joy to see one of your siblings be truly happy, and to know that you can feel supportive of that situation as well. I'm sure there's been plenty of times where some of you may have had either sibling rivalries, or you don't like the person that your sibling is dating. So I got very lucky in that sense. We all did, that this was such a great match, and it's been really wonderful for the two of them, and it's been fun on the outside to see them grow and mature together and want to continue in a positive way with each other. So it's really, really nice. But I wanted to bring all of that up because while I was there this weekend, it did spur up a lot of emotional things that positives and very, very, very momentarily negatives. But when you're in a situation like that, like a proposal, lots of things, and you're meeting the other side of the family, lots of things can get brought up or spurred or brought back up to the surface that maybe you weren't necessarily thinking about or didn't know you were thinking about, but like your subconscious brought it up. And there's lots of avenues and topics that can come from proposals, dating, weddings, marriage, people moving on in their relationships and witnessing that happen. And how does that make you feel, kind of a deal. So I started jotting down a lot of different ideas for how I could approach this topic, since I had just experienced witnessing that moment myself. And I thought I could talk today about, again, just my perspective. I'm not Jackson, I'm not Lee, so I won't tell their story for them. But I thought today we could focus on turning jealousy into fuel. And how I wanted to bring that up is because there were definitely small moments over the last couple of weeks where I started to compare myself to my either engaged friends or married friends, or witnessing other people move forward in their relationships. But I wasn't doing the same, or I wasn't in the same type of position. So I caught myself starting to speak negatively to myself in those comparison moments. But there were also small moments throughout the last couple of weeks that reminded me why I should not do those things. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of explained that thought process, and hopefully, if you've ever felt this way, some of my explanations or my perspective can hopefully bring some maybe validation, maybe clarity, maybe some relief, but hopefully push you towards a better resolution. So the main thing I tried to remind myself when I started to notice that I was thinking negatively, like, oh my gosh, they look so happy, that's so good for them, but when's it ever going to happen for me? When is somebody ever going to propose to me? When am I going to find the right person for me? When am I going to meet the one? How am I even going to know it's the one? What am I supposed to even be doing to try and find the one? Like, do I even have the one? Like, did I miss them already? You can see how you can quickly spiral if you're not able to pull yourself back together, or at least pull yourself back into being present in that moment. Like, someone else's success that might be unfolding in front of you is not a detriment to yours. So just because somebody else is having a particular experience doesn't mean that my experiences or my past or my current situation are any less valuable, right? But it's really hard when you're right in that moment and it's in your face to remember that. So I think when I started to feel that way over the last couple of weeks, I turned to my phone and I did start just jotting down these notes, like jotting down these thoughts and the reminders. Like, if you feel like that, someone else's success is not a detriment to mine. Someone else's success in the industry or the job or the romantic relationship or the sales can be observed from a third party without having you talk down about your own situation. I want to make it very, very clear that I am extremely happy for my friends that are in successful, happy, and healthy places in life. You know, like that's exactly what you would want for anyone. But it's sometimes hard when you have a certain perspective about yourself, when you think that, you know, this is not where I was supposed to be, you know, like this is not 10 years ago, this is not how I envisioned where I'd be right now, or 5 years ago, 2 years ago, this is not how I envisioned my life would be going. Like I'd be further along than this. Like, why am I not? Why am I not? And I had to take a step back when I started to feel like that, again, temporarily, momentary moments where I could see myself dragging myself down when I shouldn't. But when I started to feel that way temporarily, I tried to find the best ways to remind myself that it's okay to feel those feelings, but you shouldn't want what's not meant for you right now, right? Like there's a reason that things have unfolded like this, and you have to remember that you are an outsider looking in. So what you might see on your friends or on your married couples or on the internet or in memes or in celebrity life or on TV, you never know the full story of anybody's situation. So somebody that could look perfectly happy on the outside could be completely miserable on the inside. And you also, when you're watching somebody else that is being successful in an industry or a life that you wanted for yourself, it's very easy to sit back and judge them and pick them apart because it makes you feel better about yourself. But the truth is, you know, you never know what it took for somebody to get where they are today. If you don't know the full story, you actually can't put all the right pieces together and make a real accurate assessment of what's going on. How much effort, rejection, luck, determination, and drive that it took for them to get where they are today has a huge factor in that. The time period in which they were born has a huge factor in that. The socioeconomic access that they had helped them build that life, right? And how much luck of being in the right place at the right time helped them get to where they are. And you don't know that, right? You don't fully know the whole thing. So sitting there and trying to compare yourself or be jealous over something that somebody else has, whether it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you wanted, a partner that you wanted, the job that you wanted, they were able to build their business up and make a bunch of money, and you're still barely keeping your doors open. There's so many pieces to it, and spending all that energy comparing yourself and being jealous and being like, you know, when's it supposed to be my turn? When's this supposed to happen? It's not worth it, right? Like, we have to find a way to convert whatever that emotion is, whether it's jealousy, envy, frustration, melancholy, nostalgia kind of a thing, where you're wishing that moment to hurry up and pass or hurry up and come. You know, you can't do that, right? Like, it's never going to be the same for you because you're a completely different person. You've got completely different circumstances. You have completely different pieces of your life that have added up to your moment right now. So it's really hard to do apples to apples because I'll be honest, I don't know if true apples to apples actually exist, right? Is that even possible? Like, I understand we're not getting like as a metaphor, not literal. Like, of course you can go to the grocery store and find apples and pick them up and compare them and go, this one's green, this one's red. Like, obviously the two greens go together, the two reds go together. It's not what I'm saying. I've realized, not just over the last 2 weeks, but it is futile, to comparison is futile, right? Like, it's just not. I think it's good for inspiration, and you can take bits and pieces of what was successful from that person or what they did or their story and find a way to apply it to yourself. But you can't take the entire thing, right? You can't take the entire thing and go, oh, well, if their story doesn't add up, then it's just not right. They did something wrong. They cheated. They're not actually happy. They're not, doing the right thing. They're finding a way to weasel out that success. I deserved it. I should have been doing it. And it's like, honestly, you don't know that. You can't do that because their life is their life and your life is yours. So I think that's lesson number 1. You have to find a way to turn whatever that negative emotion is, even if it's temporary and short-lived. You got to find whatever the mantra is that snaps you right back out of it. I'm so happy for that, but I really wish I had it. You know what? That person's success is not a detriment to mine. I can still have a fulfilled, happy, joyful life, successful life in my own way. Or, and I know there's a bunch of cliches out there, like it's location to be successful or to have a good sale, or you got to be right place, right time, or the grass is always greener. But honestly, I don't think it's about location at all, right? I think the truth is the grass is greener where you water it. And you have to find ways to observe other people's success, but pour back into your own cup so that way you can keep going and you can keep achieving and striving for the things that you want. I wouldn't put complete blinders on, right? Like if you put a bunch of blinders on like a horse, you can get tunnel vision, and sometimes tunnel vision isn't what you want either. You don't want to be in the extremes. You don't want to be over comparing, but you don't want to be completely isolating yourself either. Like, I think a lot of creativity and growth can be stimulated by observing people that you either admire or you look up to or you want to be like, and appreciating the success that they have so far and finding the best way to manipulate that into your life. Right? So, number 2, the grass is definitely greener where you water it. And that goes for all types of relationships too. So like mainly the main stuff that I was dealing with over the past couple of weeks was just the relationships kind of being in my face, right? Like I was visiting a married friend of mine, and I had a lovely time there, and it was nice to be able to see them and observe them and appreciate a healthy relationship like that, and go in the back of my mind, you know what? I want something like that someday. I don't want exactly that person, because that would, be bad. I'm not trying to weasel my way into anything, but if I could find my version of that relationship, it would be great. That is something I would like to have. Or I had, other single friends that approached me over the last couple of weeks, and they talked about either still being single or recently being ghosted or like trying to get back on the apps and having a rough time, or they did decide to get back on the apps and they are having fun dating again, but it's rough. And then on the other spectrum, I saw friends over the week, or I heard from friends over the week that are still going through divorces or were recently finalized their divorces, or they have one that's coming up soon where they can finally actually get it finalized. And the stress and the pain and the agony on the other end also kind of throws me for a loop. So I have some friends that are single and thriving, single and struggling. Some are married and thriving, married and struggling. And then I have the others that are divorced and super happy about it. Others that are divorced and or trying to get divorced and miserable trying to get it to finish. And then some that are still reconciling with the divorce happening. And it's a good reminder that I got to see all of those spectrums over the last couple of weeks, because when I did get to see my brother's proposal in that split second, that minor split second where I started to feel bad for myself because, oh man, it's so great this happened for them. But like, man, I've been nowhere close ever of getting like genuinely married because I wanted to do that, right? Like a situation where I wasn't being pressured, where the people around us weren't pressuring us, where it was a decision completely made, a mutual decision completely made by the two people. I've never been that close, ever. And I wondered, will I ever be? But then I remembered, oh yeah, well, I could do that. But I have a handful of people that are married and miserable, and a handful of people that are married and happy, and then a handful of people that are still figuring it out. And it kind of looks chaotic on both ends. And just because I see one instance where it's working out doesn't mean it always does. And I shouldn't be putting so much pressure on myself to be somewhere else faster. I shouldn't be settling for the sake of being in a relationship. I shouldn't be rushing to get to a really precious moment for the sake of being there, right? And that's not the point. The point is to find someone that loves and supports you and who you can grow with in parallel, somebody that inspires you, who encourages you to be the best possible version of yourself. And until you find that, and until that shows up, you got to keep doing what you're doing. And you don't want to end up in a situation where, like your friends, where you are miserable, right? And I'm not saying that the friends that I do have that are currently going through divorces or going through rough patches in their marriage, I'm not saying that that is the reason that they are in those situations now. I'm not going to get into the reasons why they may be in those situations now, but I know that a huge factor for a lot of people is rushing a situation when you knew it wasn't right, or saying yes to a situation when you knew it wasn't right, and then you deal with the consequences later. And as sad as I could feel in that split second this past weekend, I was able to pull myself out of it because I acknowledged that I could feel the joy for my brother and his fiancée, and that it was okay to simultaneously also feel a little frustrated for myself. But the key there is to not stay stuck in that, especially when I'm not alone in how I feel, for as many super happy couples that you see on the internet or that are famous, that talk about their relationships, that are pretty public, like for as many happy ones that you see, there are lots of also really sad ones. And there are a lot of people that are trying to find partners. They're successful, they're attractive, they're smart, whatever, and they're still single, and they openly talk about the fact that it's been kind of tough to do that. So like, for example, in my head, I was thinking, yeah, I wish I had that thing, but if X, Y, and Z people are also still single, then like, that kind of gives me a little bit of hope that like, it's not just me. It's not just me that's having a hard time finding the right person, finding the right partner. Because if all of these people are just like me, then like, thank God I have a lot more people in my boat. Not that I want them to all stay single. Please don't take that the wrong way. I don't. I want them to also eventually be happy. But like, for example, there's a couple of people that I follow, and I jotted down some notes of these people and what they had said over the last couple of weeks that had resonated with this particular topic. They are full-time content creators, so they are either full-time content creators or they have a significant side hustle with the internet in some way. So they utilize social media to help their businesses or help organic growth in that sense. But I pulled a couple of quotes, or at least a couple of topics from various people that I follow that I thought would be good examples, or at least could help you guys, maybe, since it helped me to put my situation back into perspective by watching all of these other super successful people also still be single. So here we go. Number one, oh man, Stevie is going to make fun of me for saying this, but so there is on TikTok and Instagram, there is the Mississippi State Trooper named Ryan, which I don't know if any of you know who I'm talking about, but he's real tall and real muscular, and his name is Ryan. I think he's a state trooper somewhere around Hattiesburg or a small town outside of Hattiesburg. But he got famous on the internet because he would post himself in uniform, but he would also talk about men's mental health and in productive ways that were extremely vulnerable and open, because he was talking about his own and his relentless pursuit to find the right partner. But if this man, who's got, over 900,000 followers across his platforms, could be so compassionate about mental health, he serves his community, he loves his mama, he's attractive, he works out, he's got, again, hundreds of thousands of followers on all of his channels, but he is still looking for Mrs. Right, quote, quote, Mrs. Right. That's tough. You feel bad. You're like, are you kidding me? I would raise my hand in a heartbeat. I don't know if I'd want to live in Hattiesburg, but I'd go out with you. Kind of a thing. But again, I don't really slide into DMs like that. I don't really know how to do that, but he's super attractive and he seems to have the willingness to put in the work to find the right person, and he's trying really hard to help other people out there keep their head above water, because he knows how hard it actually can be, especially as a young man in our society at this time. So it's admirable, right? Like, he's at least putting himself out there, and you would think that, oh, he must be super popular. I can't believe he hasn't found anybody yet. Well, he hasn't. So Ryan, you have no idea who I am, but I wish you the best of luck. And ladies, go find him. Tell him you're interested. Okay, who else? So Chrissy Chella is a business owner, fitness influencer, law student, and entrepreneur, and a young women's rights advocate in the UK. I believe she's based in London, and she owns, if you follow any of my social media, she owns Honor Active athletic wear and the Evolve U workout app. And I have purchased both and do use both. But over the last, I guess, in September timeframe, she admitted that she was going through, this was after Honor Active's birthday party in LA. I did post a little bit about that, but after Honor Active's huge party in LA, she started alluding to lots of changes in her life had started to happen, and she was dealing with them as best she could, but was going to keep it private for a while. And then once she made it back to London, she did reveal to her followers that she and her boyfriend, who she had been dating for several years, had broken up. And it was sad, because you could see Chrissy change on her profile. You could see the content that she was creating was definitely a lot more raw and sadder. And it did feel a little bit for a moment like she was, trying to put on a good face until she finally said, this is actually what happened. I'm not going to explain the details. It's an unfortunate situation and it was heartbreaking and it was really tough, but I'm still dealing with the emotions. Here I am. I own 2 businesses. I've paid off this much of my family's debts. I've pulled myself out of these deep holes in my fitness and in my mental health. And I'm 29 and now I'm feeling like, great. My relationship just ended. Something that I thought was serious and maybe going in a particular direction, and now it's not. And now I feel like I'm all back at square one. And it's so tough because I think she's got somewhere like 3 million followers, so I don't know what UK pop culture is like. I don't really follow, I'll be honest, beyond Instagram, I don't follow a whole lot of pop culture. So I don't know what her life is like in London, but I do follow her, and I can imagine that it's extremely tough to have any kind of level of fame and success where your job is truly, social media is truly crucial for the success of both of your businesses. So she does put a lot of stuff online that is very, very personal. And I can only imagine that having a breakup like that so publicly was difficult. And you want to be respectful of each other. But it's hard when you're super successful and you feel like you failed. And the truth is she's only 29 and she's actually massively, massively successful. And she came from literally nothing. As she likes to say, on the back of a banana lorry, from Albania all the way to the UK with her parents and her sibling. And she's made a complete name for herself. She is a brand, right? And she's been able to take care of herself and her family because of that. And to me, it's incredibly admirable. And she has a lot that she should be proud of. And being 29 and single, yes, it sucks. Try being 32 and single, Chrissy, but shit. And I'm nowhere close to that kind of success. I am nowhere close to that kind of fame. And that's completely fine. I'm not trying to compare myself to Chrissy, but it was just, it resonated, the pain. And it sucks that this is what resonated, but the pain that she was in and the feeling like she failed when the truth is that you had not, that resonated, right? Yes, something may have ended, but it means you're one step closer to where you are supposed to be. You are one step closer to the right thing. You're closing one door to make sure that the right door or the next opportunity is open for you. If you're caught up in the thing that didn't work, you're focusing so hard on the thing that failed, or you're focusing so hard on shoulda, coulda, wouldas, you're not going to see the what's next. And I hope that she gets to a better place. But watching her over the last couple of weeks be a little more open about that situation made me feel better in my moments of doubt, because it felt like I wasn't alone, that somebody I admired could also feel the exact same way I feel, even if I've never met her before. So there was that. And then there are a couple of other influencers that I also follow who did not necessarily have a particular incident happen to them this past couple of weeks, but they spoke about things that I either heard on their socials or I heard on podcast interviews, because I've been doing a lot of research for my own podcast and trying to find other topics. And so I heard these people talk during those interviews. And I'll just go through a couple of those things that resonated with me from those interviews or from those mentions. So I follow another fitness influencer named, or at least on her profiles, it says Hannah Bauer, but I'm pretty sure her last name might be Hannah Hall. But her maiden name was Bauer. So she runs the Hannah Bauer app and the 22 Nutrition company with her husband, Josh. And they live out in Colorado, and I also use their supplements all the time and love them. I'm a huge advocate for 22 Nutrition. If you check the description box in the show notes for all of these episodes, I have a discount codes link, and there is a 22 Nutrition discount code there. So if you would like to follow or you would like to try any of their stuff, please feel free to do so. But Hannah constantly talks about comparison is the thief of joy. And she had another post recently, because she was debating in her head, what am I? Her life has changed so much over the last 5 years, with getting married and then having 2 kids and then dealing with postpartum depression and then starting the 22 business and getting that up and running and still being a fitness influencer, starting her app programs, helping with other people's fitness, trying to build her website out, trying to raise her kids, trying to navigate her life, starting her own therapy that she hadn't done yet, but is getting benefits out of. And she was talking about comparing herself to other people that she sees on the internet, or reading comments about how people are bored with her content, or they want her to go back to doing X, Y, or Z, and that she just isn't in the same place that she used to be, right? She's grown, she's changed over the last 5 years, and she was struggling trying to figure out, what should I be doing? What should I be posting that's going to resonate with my followers? Because I don't feel like I resonate with myself. Like, getting on social media feels so unhealthy sometimes, and it's really hard to balance between the two. Knowing that you need to for your businesses, but then also knowing that there are people out there, there's a community that you built that relies on you, even in some pseudo way, right? But she harps on and has said multiple times over the last few years that comparison is the thief of joy. So one of the things that she knows she cannot do when she's working through these thoughts is get back online and follow people that she wishes she was, or like follow profiles or pages of other mom bloggers or other mom fitness influencers that if it starts to make her feel some type of way, she'll just mute them or unfollow them temporarily, or somehow hide their account so that way it doesn't pop up and remind her that she's, quote, not in the best place that she used to be, or not in the same place that she used to be. So that's another good mantra to just keep, in the back of your mind, that comparison is the thief of joy. If there's something going on, the truth is, every time you do that, it's going to steal a little bit more of your happiness, and a little bit more and a little bit more. Every single time you worry about comparing yourself to, again, completely different individuals, even if they're in the same industry, even if they're in the same, sexual orientation, even if they're in the same job, even if they're in the same sales trajectory as you, like, you cannot compare yourself, because that is an individual person, a completely separate person with completely different genetic makeup, completely different circumstances. They might, from the outside, it looks like it's the same, but the truth is it's not. So you just don't even set yourself up for failure by even starting to go down that path. So I kind of liked her simple perspective there. Comparison is the thief of joy. And there's only so much joy really in the world, and you don't want to lose what little bit you already have. Another person that I followed, or I do follow, but this one I actually heard on a podcast interview. I started looking up some interviews about topics that I wanted to do for my podcast, and a different podcaster was interviewing a man named Tyler Cameron. And Tyler Cameron became famous in our zeitgeist when he was on The Bachelorette with Hannah Brown. I think that was 2019. and he was a competitor on her show. He made it to the final 2, but ended up not being chosen. But ever since then has been just kind of skyrocketing, and he's being interviewed everywhere. He's on magazines. He's running businesses in Florida. He's started a construction company. He's been very, very successful. And he was being interviewed on, I think it was, I want to say Skinny But Not Fat podcast. I'll be honest, I can't really remember, but he was being interviewed, and the interviewer was asking him to talk about his life before fame, before the Bachelor franchise. And he mentioned that he had played football for Wake Forest and then FAU, and was with the Ravens for a minute, but got cut, got injured, and just couldn't keep up, and had to find a different career. And later on in life, years go by later, and he's very successful. He's in the entertainment industry and whatnot now at this point. He goes to the Super Bowl, and he watches the game, and he's looking down at the crowd at the end of the game, and he's thinking to himself, and again, I'm paraphrasing from this interview, but Tyler is basically saying that he was thinking to himself, I can do those things. I used to play. I was really good. I could have done those things, and that would have been a great opportunity for me if I had been able to be in the NFL. But what I needed to recognize was that I also have good opportunities in front of me, and I have to learn that I shouldn't mess up the opportunities I have in front of me now while I have them, the same way that I did with my NFL career. He talked about being too much of a party boy and not really taking his college experience or his college athletics as serious as he could have. He might have been able to prevent some of the injuries and his, academic issues if he had pushed himself a bit harder and not been as much of a partier. And it might have been a little bit too late, kind of a thing. And maybe that's why that didn't skyrocket for him in the NFL. But I thought that was really significant, that he could witness other people's success in an industry that he used to be a part of, or other people's joy and happiness in winning the Super Bowl at that moment. And he had that temporary thought, right? Like similar to what I did. Like he witnessed people that he cared about win something and get something and succeed in something that they've always wanted. And he wants that too, or he did at one point want that too. But he reminded himself that I have good opportunities in front of me now. I have things that I can do now that I cannot waste. Because the lesson about the NFL is that I wasted my opportunity and I can't do that again. So as cool as it would be to get back out there and play again, that's not what I need to do. I need to take advantage of what's in front of me and pay attention to what's in front of me. So I thought that was a really good lesson for turning your jealousy into fuel, like finding a way to recognize whatever your circumstance, the reality of what your circumstance is, and using it to your advantage, right? If you can see all your cards on the table, you know what you got to play next, if you're paying attention. And I thought that was great. When you find yourself feeling that way and you start comparing yourself to somebody else, those split seconds where you start to go down that rabbit hole are crucial. You only have one of those split seconds to pull yourself out of that spiral before it gets worse and it permeates the rest of your day. It brings you down, and you can't do that. So another influencer that I really love, is Danielle Wilson. She's also another former athlete and cheerleader, gymnastics person. Her father's, I believe, Otis Wilson, and he also played in the NFL. So she has, professional athlete in her blood, pretty much. And She is one of the trainers on the Evolve You app with Chrissy, and Danielle posted something recently on her profile, and one of the lines in that post was, "How you speak to yourself becomes the house that you live in." And that just hit me when I read it. How you speak to yourself becomes the house that you live in. And I love her so much because she gets real raw a lot of the time, when she's really struggling with her mental health, or when she's trying to pull herself back up or hype herself up or figure out how to, pull herself back together again when something doesn't go her way, or when she's struggling with either her weight or her progress in the gym, or getting to a place where she thought she would be. And she's also in my position, or was recently. Like, I believe we're the same age, either 32 or she might be 33. But up until about a year ago, she was also single. And so I could resonate a lot with her when she would talk about her situations and her relationships and what she was looking for and what she wanted. And she ended up finding a great guy that she loves very much. And he's younger than her, and they're having a great time. And that also just gives me more hope that, like, if somebody is successful and beautiful and strong and powerful and truly, like, physically but emotionally powerful as Danielle can find somebody, I can fucking find somebody too. Like, my opportunity is right around the corner, and I gotta focus on that. But I really love that she speaks often on self-talk and negative self-talk, and how your thoughts become your actions, or your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. But specifically, how you speak to yourself becomes the house that you live in, and how you speak to yourself about your body, about your place in the world, about your decisions and your choices and your mannerisms and your life, it can truly manifest really, really quickly. And also manifest metaphorically, but also physically, right? So, like, if you start thinking so poorly about yourself, your body starts to feel that way. Your body starts to believe what your brain is saying, and it's not good. It's not good. So you have to be very, very careful and intentional with everything that you want to do in regards to your goals. And I love going back to her page, when her Instagram page in particular, when I'm feeling negative, because she's got straight gold, spitting straight gold. So I'm a huge fan of hers. Again, how you speak to yourself becomes the house you live in. So instead of being mad or jealous or frustrated or staying in the suck too long, you have to find a way to convert that jealousy into fuel. So what you could be saying is something like, oh, wow, they've accomplished X, Y, and Z. That's really amazing. I've always wanted to do X, Y, and Z. How can I accomplish my version of that same goal? What would that same accomplishment look like in my life with my circumstances? Here are the things that I know that I would need to change in order to make that come to life or come to fruition. So that way that same achievement could happen for me. Or how could I achieve something similar, right? So there are ways that you can carve out positive affirmations based on someone else's success without being a detriment to your own current mental state, right? Or physical, emotional state. Life is the longest thing that you're ever going to do. Think about that. Like, people say life is too short, but life is actually the longest thing you are ever going to do. So you better live it like you've only got one shot at it. That, I have to remind myself that spending time or energy wishing my life away, or wishing that I had the things that other people had, when maybe it's just not my turn to have them yet, it's not worthwhile. It's really not. So I hope that this episode could, one, help you feel seen, and just acknowledge the fact that these emotional sensations, the comparisons, the jealousy, the frustration, the being mad and feeling like everything sucks or things are not working out the way that you wanted them to. Things are not working out the way that you thought or the way that you would have wanted. It's tough, right? It is tough, but there are definitely ways for you to pull yourself out. And I don't know if you'll do it the exact same way I did. You can jot down notes, you can jot down mantras and reread them to yourself. You can change the type of profiles and the people that you follow on the internet. Don't follow things or people that don't fulfill you or push you in a positive direction rather than keeping you down, or keep you in a place where you're constantly feeling like you have to compare yourself to them. If you have to, then just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't follow them. If your vibes don't match up anymore for where you are and where you're at in your life at this moment, it's okay to let go of that. You can come back to it at any time. But you have to take those action steps, I think, because you got to figure out what's going to work for you to help pull yourself out of those split second situations, because it's truly like that. Like, you only have a split second when you're in that moment of feeling bad for yourself to make sure that you pull yourself out of it and don't stay there too long. Spiraling leads you to that comparison problem, that jealousy, and that's where you start to lose your joy, and that's where you start to lose your perspective about what you do have and what has been successful for you. And I don't want you guys to feel bad in those places. It's not a good place to be. So I will close it out there. I'm very grateful for all of you that have tuned in to listen, and I hope that this was helpful in some way. Like, subscribe, leave a review, send me some 5 stars, share the episode with your friends, and tune in next week. We are going to be visiting with my friend Max, and we're going to be talking all about his life and career path and manifestations and what we're looking forward to in the new year, and positive things that we hope that we can bring into our lives and things that we hope that we can achieve. And he's going to help me set up some goals and possibly a vision board. So we're going to try and get really creative next week. But I'm really excited to bring him on. I think he's going to have a lot of, again, pretty raw, maybe even tough parts of his story to listen to, but I think they're going to be really important. So I appreciate anybody that would like to listen in and follow us along, or follow us or follow along for the ride next week. But thank you so much again. I love you all the most. Dirk says hi and bye. Yeah. I'm going to say thank you for listening. No, he didn't say anything. I'm sorry. But that's all for, oh my goodness, that's all for tonight's episode. I need to go. But thank you for listening. Share the episode with your friends. And remember, wanderers are always welcome.